the theme of this speech today is going to be about what Lacan described as what's so-called four discourses. It pinpointing that when humans are taken into intersubjectivity, they fall into one of these four schemes of discourses. And as among these discourses, we will find the discourse of the analyst, psychoanalyst. We are going to shift to the ethics, some elements of the ethics of psychoanalysis. Okay. So, the four discourses and the ethics. Is it ethic or ethics?
Ethics.
Ethics of psychoanalysis. Okay, analysis. Okay, the way Lacan puts this is say that the intersubjectivity falls into four discourses. I'm going to write these names first so we can talk about them. The discourse of the master, the discourse of the hysteric, the discourse of the university, and the discourse of the analyst. Okay, we are going to. I go briefly through these two discourses, and I'd like to focus because the time is not extensible. I'm going to focus on these two discourses. Why is that? It's because I think I'm going to tell you the end of the film now first, who is the murderer. And the murderer is that what I have understood here in this country, which is very different from Latin countries. I mean, for instance, France, Belgium, Argentina, Brazil, to name the most important countries, is that there is the discourse of the analyst here seems to fall into the discourse of the university. And the consequences are very serious, I think. Therefore, that's why I then propose to talk about the ethics of psychoanalysis, because for the analyst to believe that he is in the discourse of the analyst, although he is in the discourse of the university, has a consequence the fact that there is a failure in the ethics of psychoanalysis. And this position of the discourse of the analyst has become very obvious for many analysts in these Latin countries, and so common that it's not. I mean, Lacanian analysts. It's so obvious and common that it is by spending this time here that I realized that it is not that obvious at all. And although it's what I'm saying today, I said that more than a couple of times since I come here, and it is still a big problem. That's why I was very, in a way, disappointed, and I plan to quit or to stop coming here to try to transmit this, because it's so obvious on one side of the Atlantic, and it's really like a revolutionary position here on this side. Okay, now let's try to enter in these different approaches. Although I won't spend a lot of time on the discourse of the master, it's the first that has to be considered to enter on the other discourses. Oh, I'm gonna need some. Okay. Okay, so the discourse of the master is based on the relationship between a master and a slave. It can be an ancient slave or modern slave. In this discourse, the agent is owning the mastership. Okay. As we are between us, we can use some themes. I mean, letters to describe each element I'm talking about, and this master signifier, which is the agent in the discourse of the master. Lacan names it S1, master signifier. Okay, the agent. And the agent is relying on what? Is relying on the slave. He says, if I am the agent as a master, I ain't no master if I haven't got a slave. Okay, so the master supposes the existence of a slave, and the slave he's a subject, and the subject will not go so much into this now, why it is written this way by Lacan, but Lacan writes that with S bar. Why do you have a bar? It's because the subject is divided. Okay, so let's write it. Let's write this like this. The funny thing between a master and a slave is that it is actually the slave who has the knowledge of the master, about the master. Okay? This is not recognized by the master. He believes that owning the slave, he owns the knowledge. Okay, so we have there is a knowledge. The knowledge, Lacan writes that by calling it that S2. There, the subject, he's in the position of the truth. He knows the truth. If you've seen that film, 12 Years a Slave, which is, you see that who is speaking, who has the access to the language? It is the slave. He has the knowledge, and it is very well known by the master that the slave has to conceal his knowledge, otherwise he's going to be shot. And what does the master expect by owning his slaves and using them? He expects some increase in his jouissance, or his I don't know if you're familiar with the term jouissance, which is the use of his goods in this case, and or his objects of desire. He expects the production. He expects the slave to be productive. Lacan, the little letter to write down this object of desire produced by the slave for the master, names it little a. So we have here the result of a production. Okay, so far? So it's by the knowledge of the slave that this signifier again, this is shown in this film. They want to be, the master wants to be entertained by the the knowledge of the slaves. They have to dance. They have okay. It is part of the production. Okay, so.
Could you just explain that going from the master signifier to the objectita?
Say again?
From the master signifier to objectita, what does that arrow mean?
Oh, it means that it is the production, what is being product. I own slaves. I expect to have the cotton to get a certain amount of cotton each year. Okay, it's the agent expect a certain production. Okay.
To go back to your metaphor, if the slave knows how to pick cotton, the slave knows when cotton is ready to be picked off the plant versus when it isn't. The slave picks the cotton, bales the cotton gets shipped to market, it's sold, the master collects the profit, the master then turns around and uses the profit for his benefit, but the slave gets nothing. And were you to put the master out in the cotton field, he'd be completely lost.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So in this discourse of the master, it is the slave who has access to the discourse, to the speech, to the knowledge. This is shown in the Perlon letter in Edgar Poe. You know, it is always the person who is not a slave, but not master, which is who has access to the knowledge of the situation. First, it is the queen, and the king is dumb, and then it's I can't remember his name. The
prefect of police.
No, yeah, the prefect of police is dumb, and the what's
minister.
The minister is no, not the guy who is playing not the detective, but he has the knowledge. Okay, so that's what for one. Okay, so now let's I'm going to go through first through a discourse of the historic, but okay, what's in the discourse of the historic? The agent is the subject. She is there. She talks. She is definitely the agent. We have in a position of the agent, we have the position of a subject. And she is in a position where she supposes she has she has the right to occupy this position of agent because she has an access. She supposes the presence of her objects of desire. that we put here, the A. And she has the feeling that she is légitime, on dit légitime, no?
Legitimate.
Legitimate, okay. She's legitimate to occupy this say again. Being a subject, as an agent, supposing she occupies this position due to the fact that she has an object of desire, then she is legitimate to turn this object of desire into a master signifier. And this master signifier supposes the presence of a knowledge. And this is the structure that, before. So therefore, what is the production? The production of the hysteric is that a subject is producing knowledge. And this is what made psychoanalysis possible for Freud. By analyzing hysterics, he found as analyst the possibility by observing, by analyzing these subjects as agent, there was some knowledge to be that could be produced. Okay? Okay, we'll come back there later if we have the time and if it's necessary, because I want to go now into the two discourses that seem to be which is a problem everywhere in France too, but seems to be easier to go further in these Latin countries than in the US. Let's talk about the discourse of the university. So, what's in the discourse of the university? You are the proof of this. We are going to produce a new doctor. Okay, he came here to get a PhD. So he's going to be the product of the university. Okay. In the discourse of the university, there is the production. Okay, let's put it this. There is a production of a new subject, a doctor. Typical. And who is the agent? The agent. Who is the agent? The agent is owned by the teachers, the professors who are going to fabricate, to produce this new subject. It is the knowledge. So in the agent, position of agent, we have here a knowledge. Okay? This is the agent, and it aims to produce a new subject. And usually there is something very well important when the jury decide to give the PhD to a new doctorand. It's something very important. And this on what base is this knowledge built? This knowledge is built on the belief of a I would say a structure of the world, a state of knowledge. Again, the master signifier. So it supposes this knowledge supposes S1. And this state of the art of the knowledge produces, not produces, but is presented as an object of desire. Okay. But this object of desire is supposes this subject, and I remember a doctorand in Paris, an adolescent who could not get through with his comment on dit patron de thèse? Chair. And she was always asking new things and new things and new things. And I told this guy that if she that this doctorand had some power on the chair, because he. If this woman had no doctorate, she disappears. You know, as again in the discourse of the master, she needs to have these students who want to go through PhD. Otherwise, so I gave some kind of interpretation to this analysis in this way, and. Then his subjective position shifted enough for her to accept that he would carry on, because she depends. The chair depends on these subjects, because this is the production. No product, no S2, no agent. It's a failure. It's a bankruptcy. Okay. Now let's come to the discourse of the analyst. There we are in a very different scheme. It is the object of desire, or the jouissance, which supposes the existence of a knowledge. Or the symptom, because object of desire can be the symptom. You have a symptom. It's as analysts, I let you pinpoint that this supposes a knowledge. So let's write that down. We have supposes a knowledge. Okay? And what is expected? It is expected that through this scheme of a symptom supposing a knowledge, we believe that this is going to lead to a new subject. It is this structure that builds a subject. I mentioned earlier that this, the S is as a bar, saying that it's divided. And if it's divided, it's in the way that it has been divided by something. And this divided subject supposes the presence, the existence of a master signifier, S1. So what we expect through the discourse of the analyst is that a symptom is going to produce a master signifier. Okay? Yeah. Some questions or?
Just so being clear about what a master signifier is, Lacan wants to find it as a signifier without a signified, that it has no fixed meaning, in fact that its meaning or sense is unclear and ambiguous, and allows for the subject to create a meaning for it.
Mm-hmm.
In any religion, there's a name of God. God is a master signifier. What does God want? Well, how many religious texts do you want to look at? Because they're all trying to answer to the question of what is the meaning of this master signifier. In this country, you can watch the common exchange right now about what does it mean to be a free country? What is freedom? Freedom is again an ambiguous term, not well defined. It motivates people to do things trying to make it sensible, but in a way you become a slave to an unknown or an unknowable definition. And part of the work in analysis is to surface these key terms that are acting to motivate the subject, causing them to suffer, when they themselves are unaware of what are the terms that are nailing down their very existence.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's go now into what is problematic in I was going to say in this country, but don't believe 1 second that it's France is a perfect area where analysts are perfect in their position. Not at all. But let's go to first to what science is and what science is not. We had to wait till Karl Popper to have an interesting description of the limit of what science is and what it is not. A naive conception of science is that this S2, this part, S2 over S1, is definite. And but actually what's fundamental in science is that it is refutable. The refutability of science is fundamental. Okay, so what are the fundamentals? Is a science is refutable. A science can be falsified. Falsified does not mean that it's false. It means that I can, if I make a new discover or invention in science, I write down the process I have found, and I publish that in Nature or whatever journal, and I offer my discovery to the possibility of a refutation. This is fundamental. Galileo, who was scientific, nearly died out of this refutation. Science can be falsified. anytime. Therefore, this S1 is can change over time. And because this is what is supposed to the knowledge. Okay. So this is the condition of making a new subject, of making a new doctor through the discourse of science. Therefore, a consequence is that inductive reasoning is never conclusive. A deductive reasoning is, of course, conclusive, but an inductive reasoning is acceptable as long as there is no counterexample. As soon as someone invents a counterexample of an inductive reasoning, a new scheme has to be invented. This was written like this by Popper through starting with a problem solution. Okay, one invents a tentative theory. Then, with this theory, there is try to eliminate the errors, error elimination. Through this process, this can lead to a second solution. Okay? This is the part which is the refutation. There are countless examples of this. Okay, so when we come to the discourse of the analyst, are we in the scheme of a science? To put the question, is the psychoanalysis a science? If it's a science, it has to be refutable and it can be falsified. But is this the case? The answer is obviously no. Why is that? Because what I tell my analyst, whether it is true, whether it is false, I don't know, but it is irrefutable. First, and then it cannot be reproduced. Science has to be reproducible. Of course, because I give the process and it has to be reproduced. But after the end of a session, it is lost forever. You cannot reproduce the session. And the funny thing is that scientifics are not sure that, I don't know you call that in English, ball lightnings, la foudre en boule, je sais pas, you know Tintin and this ball of lightnings that come through a room, you see what I mean?
Yeah, thunderbolt or something. Thunderbolt?
Yeah, maybe thunderbolt. I don't know. Scientifics are not sure it actually exists because they cannot reproduce it. Is it scientific or not? Well, someone said, well, it came through my living room and went out. Okay. So then, is it science? And we are with these thunderbolts. We come to the limits of the science because it is refutable. You can say, well, probably you were high or something.
I need to test you for epilepsy.
Maybe, but it's not reproducible. So there is a limit there. For psychoanalysis, it's even much worse, of course. What is lost at the end, there is a lost at the end of each sessions, and it never will be reproduced. So, on the discourse of the university, we have a science, and if you have been through these comment on dit soutenance de thèse?
Propose?
Yeah, maybe when you are in front of the jury and you defense you can see that what the science is, because 2 or 3 of the guys are going to say, hey, why did you say that, and so on and so on. They are in the refutability of what you are saying. Okay, so here we have on this side. We have a science, and on this side, we do not meet the criteria of a science, not at all. So, if you want to occupy the position of an analyst, and if you have analyses, you are out of the scheme of the science, definitely. And you cannot avoid that. Although, and this is the problem I wanted to pinpoint, is that there is a permanent avoidance of this impossibility. It's impossible to occupy this discourse and being in this discourse. It's impossible. In France, there is one university, Saint-Denis, where you can become a PhD in psychoanalysis. In a way, there is no contradiction here. It's because it doesn't mean you are working as a psychoanalyst. It means that you have a PhD as in psychoanalysis being seen as a science. You can. There are many domains of PhDs where your object of study is independent of the subject. I mean the agent. there is Jean Cocteau. Someone asked him once, telling him, could you talk, please, about your art and your productions of art? And the answer was, I can't. You cannot ask a flower to talk about agriculture. And so it's totally different. It's two themes totally different. If you have a PhD in psychoanalysis, it doesn't mean you are going to work as an analyst. It's a different scheme. You are analyst if and only if, not only, but if you have some analysants and it is these analysants who say, you are my analyst. It is very different from to say, I am a psychoanalyst. This is irrelevant again. It's not an ontology. I am a psychoanalyst. It's irrelevant. But I can say I work as, I am part of my time psychoanalyst when an analysant tells me, you are my analyst. Therefore, we meet this nearly proverb said by Lacan, who said a psychoanalyst authorizes from himself, and then he added, and from some others. I believe that the people thought that the others were the peers, but I believe it is the analysants who said, this guy is my analyst. But there has to be a frontier here, which has to be very hard, very strong between these two positions. You are not an analyst because you have a big paper on the wall saying that you have been through a process and that you have a PhD or a master or whatever, or you are honored by the IPA or whatever. It's not that who make you an analyst. It's Freud who noticed that when he put the concept of profane analysis. Analysts who were not doctors or psychologists. It's not new. It's 100 years ago. So that's it's very hard to. This message is very hard to pass in this country, and so far I don't understand why. It's. People say they fear of trials. They want to have this paper on the wall. All these. Well, it's dangerous. Psychoanalysis trials can happen, but I always give the example of if you put. If you put on your in front of your door a placard saying that you are a philosopher and that you receive an appointment and that you can talk to people can come and talk to you as a philosopher, you can do that. You don't need a license for this. Same for the duration of the sessions. Why should I for a session? Why should I fix the session on a robot? This is some kind of robot. Huh? Oh, your time is over. No, it's. What is your best tool for to circumvent the influence of the superego of the patient? It is the end of a session. It is the cut of a session. This is your best tool as an analyst. When you feel that the superego is investing your office, the best tool you have to say, oh, okay, come next week. Yeah, no, you come next week. And the superego does not come after 3/4 of an hour. It can come after 5 minutes or 10 or never, or no. Why would I have to accept torrents of superego during 3/4 of an hour on a patient? Why that? It's not helping me, it's not helping him. Of course not. But if I cut when I see the rays of this superego, I can stop the session. Another thing is how long is it going to take for psychoanalysis? Okay. Would you say, oh, next month I'm going to start to play tennis, and I'm going to start to play tennis for 3 years and a half? Would you say that? Never. Oh, or play judo. Oh yeah, I'm gonna learn judo, but for 1 year and a half, not more. Never. You would never say that. People say, oh, well, it's going to last 10 years or 5 years. I don't know. I've been there for 6 years. It's very long. Yeah, you would never say that for tennis. If you enjoy tennis, you carry on, and then you stop. Because there we are talking about psychoanalysis. We are not talking about therapy. This has nothing to do with therapy. When you go to see an analyst, even if you are asking for a therapy because you have symptoms and you want to get rid of your symptoms, on the analyst side, it's important to remember that you grab the transference by the tip, by the very end, it is presented to you. But you have to know that that you are going that the process is analyzing the what is not working well or going well for the guy who is coming to see you. And it is Freud who said that the cure would be an add-on that might come as well. After these years where Freud was a psychotherapist, he went to the realization that cure and health was a possibility.
But not a guaranteed outcome.
Not a guarantee at all. It's not. It's not a service like you provide a service. You know, like when you go to see a lawyer, or you have to repair your car. You know, it's not it's not service providing, not at all. Okay, so that's about the main things I wanted to say. Then there we are in the ethics of psychoanalysis. How can you how can these people? How can you sustain ethics of psychoanalysis by being here? It's impossible in my mind. It's very. And it's very difficult to. Of course, I understand the power of the IPA in this country. The funny thing is that the IPA exists in France, but it's considered as old farts, old guys, irrelevant, totally irrelevant.
Well, I think part of the appeal is that there's the illusion or the belief that you can learn how to do it right, and when you learn how to do it right, then the one standing in the place of the master will come and smile upon you in some way. And that there's that guarantee and that assurance that you can learn how to do it right, you'll be approved and accepted and acknowledged when you do it right, and that in a very strange way, then you're not responsible. I'm thinking of the dialectical behavioral therapy. It's even hard for me to say it. Is the au courant theory and approach to treatment in this country. It's manualized, there's a place you can go to learn it, you can get a certificate in it, and then you become a specialist in it that everybody wants, but it's basically saying this is what you do with every person who comes into your office. This is to go back to our discussion earlier, your toolbox only has a hammer in it. You don't have any other tools. So everybody who comes in gets pounded. Whereas without that false assurance, that false security of standing under the sway of a master signifier, you're responsible as the practitioner for when you do or don't say something, when you do or don't act, or how you position yourself in the space with the analysm and what you do and don't respond to. There's no outside authority to fall back on. It's all on you. And that's a very scary place for people to be.
Exactly, exactly. I think fear is important motor in this. Lacan invented a term. He called that les petits souliers, means the little shoes. As if you were in shoes too small, It's hard to occupy a place with your feet in too small shoes.
Yeah. The Procrustean bed is always trying to cut something off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you might cut the very end of the shoes, so your fingers, your toes stick out. Much more at ease.
Mm-hmm.
So would you like to comment or?
Well, I would say sort of, with regard to what John is saying, that it's both a tyranny of an other who we suppose knows the right way to do something, but it's also the tyranny of this supposition that there exists in some objective space, if you will, a right way to do something, which I think is very much this discourse of
Exactly.
master, except objectified.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The dominant theories right now seem to be, the relational school and the intersubjective school. My biggest problem with those schools is it's so boring. I just can't, I think it's useful at times to be thinking about a session that way, working with a particular patient, but it bores me to death. I don't know about you guys. And although I think there is some practical value to it. But I think the problem that from that side is they don't see the value of this. I think sometimes the problem for Lacanian analysts is not seeing that there is some value here with the relational and the intersubjective schools. But without this, there's really no psychoanalysis. That's not really psychoanalysis, but it's something. And it's something sometimes we can get lost, I think, in the cerebral nature sometimes of this. So I think it's useful, but that's my biggest problem. I can barely go to the conferences anymore.
I didn't get everything you said. Can you be more specific? Or?
Well, I'm not sure if you're familiar. I tend to sort of confound the two, but the intersubjective schools and the relational schools are very dominant now in psychoanalysis and psychotherapy in the United States, probably the two most. And a lot of it's based on this notion. Those of you maybe are more expert than me can chime in here, but on this notion of attunement. A lot of it, so the sort of emotional attunement that you sort of can grasp and truly, in a deep way, empathize. And there's nothing wrong with that, certainly, with the emotional state, of the analysand. The problem, that's fine and good, I think, but the problem, I think, for that school is that they think it may be enough, or more or less enough. That's my problem. I think that's useful. Sometimes I've forgotten about that being so involved in this perspective. But the problem is it's not enough. And I think it's hard to, I was leading the Lacanian case conference at the San Francisco School for Contemporary, I can't remember, SFCP, whatever that stands for. And it was just like they couldn't imagine at times what I was talking about. They couldn't, the idea of cutting a session, the idea of any sort of the notion of the split subject. It was just like the most basic things in the world, that the unconscious is a gap, a surprise, something that will be lost, but none of that. It's like you do something and you have this connection, and it's like old humanistic type of therapy.
To put it in a more Lacanian frame, it's they're lost in the reflection in the imaginary mirror, thinking if they can match up and reflect sufficiently, that will be the curative effect, and ignore or want to not pay attention to the symbolic dimensions of the relationship and the interaction. And in that sense, you have no tools with which to move anything forward if you're not paying attention to the symbolic side of things.
Yeah. Well, and that the unconscious remains repressed. It becomes sort of a strengthening of the ego and of those imaginary dimensions, but the unconscious essentially remains untouched, it seems, in these schools, yeah.
Well, I think, of course, now the term, people will not speak about repression. Right, repression is it's really dissociation. Dissociation is the key term, and they go along with sort of splitting. Those are what, so most, I think most analysts now will see that it's not that it's repressed. It's just sort of to the side. And, which is a whole nother problem.
Yeah.
On these schools, but this is
Repression is perceived as something you have to get rid of, or although it is structural. We didn't have the time to this. what is this bar? What does this bar mean? This bar means that you cannot have a simultaneous access to this and this. This bar is the bar of repression. It is structural. It means what? It means that when let's put it another way. No, let's keep that. Use that one. Okay. No, I don't like that.
Need another board in here.
What does it mean? It means that if I am in the position of assuming, I won't say S1 because SA, okay? This have an access now at instant t to this signifier. What is repression? Repression, or what is unconscious? What is unconscious? Unconscious is what is not conscious at t time, instant t. There is a SB there at this instant that is repressed. That is what the unconscious is. It's not like an onion with layers and so on and so forth. No. It is at this instant t0. If I am saying or experiencing SA, I'm unaware of SB. That is what repression is. But what happens if time goes on, and if I go to time t1, which might be half a second, 1 second, 1 week, 1 year, 10 years, depends. The SB comes here, and then I can be conscious of the SB. It comes, it has passed the line, and of course, when I have an access to this signifier SB, there is another one which is repressed, SC, and so on and so forth. Okay, that is what the unconscious is. That is what repression is. How do you want to get rid of this? This bar is resistant to interpretation, but suppose it's a slip of the tongue. Slip of the tongue, you can have an access to SB just a fraction of a second later. No problem. But when I said that, I didn't know that I was saying the wrong word. Of course not. It's repressed. It's no big deal. And now the question is, and the question is, what happened there between T0 and T1? If it was a slip of the tongue, there is no huge transformation in my mind, just something that was unconscious and then conscious, no big deal. But there it was totally unconscious, and there it was totally conscious. What happened? How could that be? What is the very structure of this bar, which is so opaque and then so transparent? How is that possible? And Lacan gave a solution for this. He said, if this bar is not a simple fraction bar like 1/3 or whatever. If you give to this bar the structure of, if you give this bar the structure of a Mobius band, you know what a Mobius band is, of course. Overview, okay? If you take a band, instead of gluing it like this, you make half turn. Okay. Therefore, instead of two sides, you have only one side then. And if you think that you have the SA here and the SB behind, and there is the time going, T0 here, and then you have access to SB at time T1 because you are on the other side. Okay? You cannot have access because this band is opaque. Therefore, you cannot have a simultaneous access to SA and SB, but one instant later you might have an access to SB because it's just in front of you. Okay? If you give the if you think of this bar between signifier and signified as a Mobius band, then things are very simple. So it's no it's no reason to get rid of the repression. Repression is a matter of time. And there we come back to the analyst.
It's almost as if this is another word I have a hard time saying. In Scientology, the goal is always to become clear, which is to have the ego be completely transparent to itself, which is an impossibility. But they have somebody telling them they can do that.
Yeah.
And they try and do that, and they go quite mad in the process.
Yeah, it's very you'd wish, you know, it's a myth, or it's Santa Claus. You'd love to believe in Santa Claus. So there again, with we meet again the S1. We meet again the S1. It's the master who is responsible for this repression. And of course, people who are lacking this process of repression, they are in some kind of psychosis. Of course, because they are questioning, you know, these. I
have no tape.
How do they call that?
Questioning or not questioning?
Yeah, the. I can't even remember in French. The inquiétante étrangeté. How can you say that?
Anxiety about strange.
Yeah, inquiétant, puzzling.
Uncanny.
Yeah, uncanny. It's because you never know if you are on the SA or SB, you know. So it's very bizarre, and it's very it generates a lot of anguish and anxiety, of course. Okay. When there is a failure in the repression. Repression is not a symptom. You have to get rid of it. You have to know that it's a dynamic process, and you are very happy when this duration is only a few seconds. If it lasts 10 years, you are not so happy. But it's often the case for many symptoms. Why is that? It's due to this A. You know, when this A is in a position of a knowledge, of a truth, then you want. It can take years and years to get rid of these symptoms, because there are so many advantages of keeping it. You don't want to. You don't want to pass. You know, for in the discourse of the analyst of the hysteric, their times can be years. That's why all this, you see, that's why I've rubbed the previous one, but this is a Möbius movement, okay? Because what is here? What is here comes here. You see, you've got the Möbius move, okay? It's like a Möbius function. The position of the analyst is some kind of function. It's a function who deals with this Möbius band. There we have the Möbius band. What was below signified, we hope it comes in the position of the signifier. Okay? That's what the meaning of this arrow here. Signifier, signifier. That there is going to be a new signifier. From my symptom, my new signifier, I'd like to be a subject. Okay? And as you see, there is then no connection between the knowledge and the S1, and it's behind. It's been rubbed. But if you look at the discourse of the master, you are going to see that what is disappearing is the connection between what becomes impossible is the connection between the S bar and the A. In the discourse of the master, I figure this like this. It's there is no possible connection between the S bar. So, and this is the diagram of the fantasy. In a way, there's a way to say that for the master, he has no fantasies. He's only interested in production, not in fantasies. Fantasies for the others. I want to make money, you know. Money is what's important. Fantasy is for artists, not for me. You know, there is a major difference between this. I figure this VS versus this, which is the diagram of the fantasy. What this diamond figure? It figures something that can be open or closed. Suppose the blackboard is green, and there is behind a white. It's white behind. Therefore, when it's like this, you can see what's behind. Okay, which is what is white. It's
you can or can't.
The structure of the fantasy has this diamond, okay? But this diamond can be opened or closed. When it's closed, there is only the mark of the cut, and there is a possible exchange between the subject and his object of desire. Okay, it's closed, but it's open again, and when it's open, it's there is no path between the subject and his object of desire.
It's. Think about the open state like a light switch in the off position. No current flows.
Okay, right.
So the circuit is open and nothing happens.
Yeah, exactly. There the circuit is open, and there the circuit is closed. Okay, it's when say, oh, I have exactly the object I was looking for. Okay, the belief, and which usually does not last very long, that you have the feeling that you have grabbed your object of desire. Okay, there it is shown in the open position, like a switch. Okay, and there I figure this as if it was impossible to close it, because if you look at the scheme of the discourse of the master, you have I'm gonna put it down here again. S1. Here you have the S bar. Here you have the here you have the A, and here's the S2. Okay, like this, and like this. Okay, but there you see there is no connection for the master, for the discourse of the master. There is no access to S bar diamond A. No access. It has the master he has a very poor jouissance in a way, because he doesn't have even access to the fantasies.
Is that then the master's discourse seems is essentially the discourse of the capitalist?
Okay, it's very close actually. I don't remember exactly how Lacan figured the discourse of the capitalist by switching, in a way, this discourse. And in this case, the little a stands for the value added value. Okay. The added value to the production.
Right. The excess.
The
excess.
The excess. Yeah, exactly. Which is the source of the objects of jouissance for the capitalist, of course. I can have a question that I've never got any answer. Of course, for any analyst, it's always hard to quit the discourse of the university, or the discourse of the master, or the discourse of the historic, to occupy most of the time the discourse of the analyst. Why is it so difficult in this country for the people here? I don't suppose it is easy anywhere. It's not easy, and we fall in our practice. We always fall in the other discourses. Of course, what is important is not to say, "Well, this is something I'd never touch." Of course not. But it's important to be aware that when I give when I say some things to an analysand, I might not be in the discourse of the analyst, but it's important to be conscious that I'm not at that time. Therefore, I'm going to see what are the effects on the analysand to have shifted in another position. But why is it so nearly unbearable here to occupy this position? This is something I still do not really understand.
The United States, be rational, supposed to know. It's a good medical model. I think it's very, very important. A lot of psychologists, psychotherapists, psychoanalysts, I think they follow, like, there is this treatment, there is a way of doing it, there is a knowledge. I think there's a lot of that. I don't know, but very practical, very rational. I mean, if one can disabuse, I think patients are coming in of the belief in that, then it already becomes more interesting and possibility of something being done. But I think for most clinicians and I think most patients, that's the way they see it. But I think patients are more open. I mean, the one thing I think that, because for me, certainly at times I'm drifting in terms of where I'm standing. But when there's the possibility, when I overcome my own resistance and I'm working from an analytic position, I mean, the patients are just come alive. It becomes interesting. I mean, that's the one thing I think that a lot of American clinicians just don't get.
Yeah.
It's so much more interesting.
Exactly.
If it's possible with a particular vision.
I would say that it's what I thought. It's not a problem of demand. It's a problem of offer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What is offered is not in the trail.
Yeah, that's a shame. That's a shame for everybody, I think. When it's a possibility, it's really a shame.
I'm not sure that I'd agree with that.
Sure.
I think it is to a significant extent, and again, I understand very little of what you've said, and of course even less of what Lacan has said, so this may be totally ungrounded in our conversation, but nonetheless, let me throw some ideas out there. It is, as I think I started to say, I think you're right, it is derived from American history within the world of psychology, and also within the larger American experience, but let's stick to psychology, where American psychology began as an offshoot of European experimental, we want certainty, 19th century European thought, Germanic
empiricism.
Yeah, Germanic empiricism, and which interestingly is where Freud began, but took in very different direction. Now, we have America wanting certainty. We have William James, we have the folks at Harvard roughly at the same time. And again, there were exceptions to that. There were people who were receptive to Freud. But America before that, and even, okay, America is, and what we're talking about certainty, American psychology, in the sense of providing treatment to patients, was initially the world of the asylum, period. The high-ranking in the profession of psychology, originally the top tier was the asylum superintendent. The bottom tier was the neurologist and psychiatrist. Okay, so not what we think of today, but historically. And the treatment that was provided by the asylum was nothing that we would really consider treatment. Hot baths, ice packs, herbal remedies, etc. And gradually, the world of the psychiatrist, which was derived from a portion of European empiricism, rose as the dominant thought pattern in America. And while that was happening, you had all of this. Okay, that's the larger world of psychology, psychiatry. And another strand going on at the same time is what's going on in the world of analysis. In the United States, analysis arrived in 1909 at Clark University with Freud's visit. Prior to that, in the United States, there was no universal treatment apart from what the asylum provided. That was the only broad-based, recognized world of treatment. Apart from that, clinically in the United States, there were just little isolated clinics, literally.
What do you think the problem is now?
Now we're getting to what the problem is now.
1909, I'm wondering about that.
I think it's related. I think we have 1909, we have essentially the emigration to the United States. We have Freud's declining health, which led him to end his resistance to the acceptability of lay analysis. And I think that, and with the end of lay analysis as a viable method of treatment in the United States, you had analysis being dominated by the medical profession. Again, there's a relationship to empiricism. And you have, where we are now, cutting out a lot of steps, we have the world, the nonsense world of evidence-based domination, evidence-based treatments. And evidence-based treatments are, you know, it's basically a consumer fraud.
Sure.
Because the evidence is just as good for analytic treatment as it is for CBT, DBT, ACT, whatever flavor you want. Most of the research supporting any of those things, including analysis, is garbage research. It is absolutely terrible research. And you can flip that statement over to say that the evidence supporting analysis is just as good. But going back to the start, Americans love evidence.
Yes, but why is it so difficult in this country to disconnect psychoanalysis from treatment, therapy, and all health and so on? Mm-hmm. It is extremely connected, and that is very bizarre for me. If you are playing tennis, maybe it's going to bring you more health. Mm-hmm. It's an add-on. By playing tennis every day, probably you're going to be in very good shape and your mind more open and so on and so forth. But it's not considered playing tennis as being a treatment. But psychoanalysis is, and that is.
I suspect it goes back to the domination by the medical profession in the United States, and back in the elimination in 1938 or so of lay analysis in the United States, where it became interwoven with science in the form of the medical profession.
Yeah, but that I understand that being the mainstream, but why is it nearly impossible to be in an eddy? You know,
because I don't think that culturally there is that much acceptance. It became after, let's say, okay, analysis became viewed largely as the playing field of the rich, of the socially economically privileged. And then the socially economically privileged decided they had no interest in it.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
It is bizarre, and I'm skipping it.
I understand that as a mainstream, and there's no problem with this, but a different position being so exceptional, that is bizarre to me. You see what I mean?
Yes, I do see what you mean. I'm trying to, in a very broad way, paint how I think we got where we are. And we are in a position where analysis is not mainstream in the United States at all. And analysis, if it is not understood as a way that one can develop one's one's game as a human being. It's seen primarily from the outside as a way, as treatment. And if it's not treatment, why is it there? Why does it even exist?
One last question. You said that many things I said you did not understand. What?
I did not, well, kind of the reverse, but I followed bits and pieces. I think, just thinking in terms of S1, S2, etc., I would need to spend more time thinking about where each of those terms is coming from. I could understand some of the variations you were presenting, but I would need personally to spend more time thinking about just the basis, just the basic vocabulary. And then I could understand the variations that you were playing, I think, more fully. You're playing out more fully.
Okay.
If there are no more questions, I'd like to thank you all for coming.
Thanks to you.
We have information. We will let you know what new things develop as things go forward. I don't know if you all want contact back. If we should put our emails up there. Probably. Yours is.
I got some. I got some cards here. I'm going to write it down here. And yours, John?
Gasparoni.phd.
Gasparoni dot
PhD at lmi.net.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thanks to you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Very informative.